Alright, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you guys? So Hajj season is approaching, and I made a video like a few years ago regarding some of the tips and things that we can use. Some of the things that you should take with you, like a checklist, you know. So it was very popular. A lot of people like it, and they recommended me. Since I went there and I learned the hard way, maybe I should give more tips and tricks and some hacks and how to maneuver and how to make things easy on yourself. So let me just share with you. I wrote down here 40 things that 40 tips, so I'll go with them real quickly so I don't have to talk too much. Hopefully. Okay, so I'll also write it down in the description so you can read them real quick if you need them. Okay, so you go to Hajj, right? Before you go to Hajj, you apply with your agent, and your agent should give you a check. If he doesn't give you a check, that means that there is an issue. You will have to pay that fee when you go to the airport. Okay, so if you find out, because remember, the agent is a salesperson at the moment when you're trying to make or negotiate a deal. So he will tell you everything is fine until the time you travel. If you find out that you are traveling alone, if the agent is not with you in the same airplane, most likely nobody will pick you up from the airport. Just remember that. Prepare for the worst and keep that in mind. So if you don't have the check, prepare for that. If the agent is not with you in the airplane, make plans to go to the hotel, so you have to know where the location of the hotel is, right? Maybe you use Google Earth, maybe you use a physical address, like a written down address in Arabic and in English, or description, so you can go and take a cab and go to the location. So I'm giving tips if you go to Medina now, because it's easier when it comes to the airport. So when it comes to the airport, so you go to the airport, of course there's a long line. We talked about that in the previous video. You shouldn't take a watch with you, so you know, be patient and expect long lines. Okay, so you go out of the airport. So this is a trick that you can do. I know in Saudi they're trying to introduce something like Uber. They are trying to, maybe they're in the process, maybe they will do something similar to it. But if not, if it's not available, what you can do always is, if you're alone or if you're with one person, you can always share a cab. So you look for a person with you that you can take a cab with to Medina. Now in non-hajj seasons, usually is regarding 80 riyals to 90 riyals. If you want to tip the driver, maybe it's 100 riyals for the SUV, right? The SUV is 100 riyals. Maybe 50, 70, something like that, right? So if you share the cab with someone else, you can pay, you and your partner can pay 50, for example, and the other person can pay 40, so it will be 90. It'll be more than enough for the cab. This is non-hajj season. I don't know if it's a hajj, maybe they increased it. This is back a few years ago, so maybe the price increased as well. Okay, what else do we have? So when you go there, of course, you expect a lot of walking, so take very comfy sandals, maybe Crocs, and keep it with you all the time. You know, when you go to a masjid, you put your shoes in a shoe rack. Don't do that. When you go to the airport, they give you one of the advertisements. They will give you a bag, or your agent maybe will give you a small bag to carry with you. Always put your shoes in it. Do not leave them in the shoe box, because most likely you will come back and you will not find them there, and then you will end up buying the sandals that will give you a lot of problems back down the road, right? So keep them with you. If you don't have an ihram, ihram is the white thing that you buy, the white cloth. Don't worry about it. You go there, there's a lot of them. You can buy a few options with them. Okay, so if you don't have one, you buy one. If you do have one, also buy one there, an extra ihram. It will help you. It will be like a towel. It will be, there's few things about it, like when you go, because when you're in the haram, for example, when there's crowded, you don't want to go and redo your wudu. So what you can do, you can put the ihram on the floor. You can have a bottle of zamzam, right? You can make your wudu there, and it will drip on the ihram, and then you can carry it back with you. This is a good use for it. Another good use for it is, we'll talk about this later on. When you go to Muzdalifah, you'll be sleeping on the floor, on the sand, and you'll be all dirty up. When you go back to Mina, you really probably will, you know, you don't have time to wash the ihram that you have. You just put the other one you have. So this is also a useful extra ihram that you can buy there. What else do we have here? Okay, so a lot of people will tell you, especially the people who don't have experience, they'll tell you don't sleep in Hajj because you're missing out a lot of the of worship time. Don't sleep. This is a mistake. Go there. Make sure you prepare. If there is Jum'ah, if it's Friday, if the khutbah is next day, make sure you get rest. You don't want to be like sleepy, because you'll be like in a state of drunkenness. You know, you not know what you're saying, what the you know, when you're praying, you'll probably be not concentrating. So make sure you take the rest. Don't listen to these immature people. They don't know what they're talking about. So what else? Just in case if somebody get lost, always have a plan to meet somewhere beforehand. Always have that plan. So let's talk about food a little bit. So there's a big restaurant in Saudi. It's called Mat'am al-BAIK, right? The restaurant BAIK, and it's very crowded. Honestly, guys, it's not worth it. Basically, it's fried chicken. The secret of the restaurant being so good is because there is a lot of demand on it, so the food is as fresh as it gets. As soon as it gets out of the kitchen, you'll eat it, right? So if you go to a KFC, do this experiment. Go to KFC, order something that they will cook right away, right? Tell them you want like a chicken breast that you want to cook right away, right? Grilled chicken breast cooked right away. You don't want them to give you one from the rack. And taste it. You'll be very amazing. So this is the secret of Mat'am al-BAIK. Don't order it. You will waste at least 2 hours standing in line. It's not worth it. Make sure you take a lot of water, bottled water, like from the Zamzam. Keep water with you. Keep hydrated all the time. So still in Medina. In Medina, usually if you are with the group, they'll probably go with like an attraction trip to see the historical places. Me, honestly, I personally did not go there. I focused and I took the time to be in the haram. And I was fortunate because always something will go wrong. Always expect some things to go wrong. Somebody will get lost. Somebody will not show up when they're coming back, so they have to wait. So the group that they went, they wasted the whole day just with, looking for each other. And I was lucky not to go with them, and I stayed in the haram, and I used, I made use of a good time. So if you go to Mecca now, you're going to Mecca, you'll stop at what you call it, Bar Ali, where you do the intention for Hajj. So you can put your ihram there. You can you take a shower. There's shower places. So anyways, when you go to Hajj, remember the Vaseline. We talked about Vaseline. When you put your ihram, you probably want to apply it before you need it, because if you start having rashes, you'll end up with a very difficult Hajj time the whole time. So apply before you need it, and apply as much as you can. Take the biggest bottle with you before you go there. Over there they sell the small bottles, so probably you'll use them in a few days. You probably will use them on your feet and stuff like that. So it's very useful. If you go early to Mecca, you probably will be staying at the hotels that are attached to they're very close. You can just walk to the haram. If you were fortunate, if you're lucky to be there at that time, make sure you go to the receptionist and take a bathroom key. There's a lobby in the bathroom. So take that key. If you stayed at least, if you stayed as even for one day, just take the key and keep it with you, and return it when you want to go home, basically, because that key is very useful. Later on, it becomes very crowded. It will be very easy and to go to the building and to use the facility there, the restroom facility, if you want to do wudu or if you want to go to the bathroom. So you can use that key, and when you want to go home, you just return it. So this is a good way to skip a lot of, just a cool tip, right? Expect the team leader to be there the first time. Unfortunately, he probably doesn't know what he's doing, and so don't be discouraged, right? Be your own. It's the time to become your own leader. So you want to do tawaf, you go. I noticed that when you do tawaf, depending on your who you are, if you don't like crowded places, you can go to the third or second floor, right? The big circles. You can do that if you want, but it is much easier. I found much easier to be with the crowd and to do the one next to the Kaaba. Just me personally. Some people don't like to be with the crowded group, so it's depending on you. So for me personally, to stay near the Sahana, what do you call it, the Kaaba, is better. So another tip I'll give you guys. So you do 7 rounds, right? every round you do, you get closer to the Kaaba, closer to Kaaba. By the sixth round, you'll be almost like, you know, very close to it. Now this is maybe not in Hajj, but in, like, if you were there a few days early, it's possible, like, or you do an Umrah. But my tip to you guys is, on the seventh round, in the last round, try to walk your way out, right? So you don't want to finish your tawaf and go directly the other way, because you'll be bumping people. So on your last one, make the circle bigger, walk out, try to walk out, and by the end you finish the circle, you'll be all the way in by the exit, and it will be easier for everyone. Let's see what my list here. I have few more. Another tip: do not travel or do not walk from one place to another after the prayer. So after the fourth prayer, immediately stay in your place. This is a good tip, because it will take you an hour, even if you want to go to the hotel next, a few meters away. It will take you an hour just to walk with the crowd, right? So after the salah, do your tasbih, izkar, Quran, whatever. It's better at least for 15-20 minutes until until it gets less crowded, right? That's a good tip. Okay, so I'll give you one more tip. I noticed when you do the Safa and Marwa, right, and when you exit that area, so that door, I'm not sure what that door is called, but when you exit that door and you go to the barbers, there is a bathroom at that area, that location, and I noticed that bathroom is very not unique. That bathroom specially is less crowded, and it's much better to go to that bathroom if you want to do your wudu or for anything else. So I did notice that bathroom is always less crowded, and it's actually almost empty, always, even like in the busiest day, because Safa and Marwa is the exit and people want to leave and they want to do other things, right? So the people coming in usually don't go to the bathroom. So that's a good note for you right there. Now in Hajj it'll be impossible to touch the black stone. Let's just be realistic. But just in case, if you're close enough to it, I advise you not to touch it, because they put perfume on it, and if you do touch it or kiss it, you do have to do the qurbani thing, because if you're in the state of ihram, right? Another tip when you're doing tawaf, this is a tip from me: always smile. You know, smile is a charity. So imagine all these millions of people, you smile in front of them, you're giving millions of charity. So remember that, okay, guys? Remember, when you go to Mina, there is always clinics, free clinics in Mina for whatever reason. When they offer you food in Mina, always don't assume it's safe to eat, because you know, you want to smell the food. If you have a flu, you can't smell. Just make sure the food is not, because it's really hot there, and we talked about the food issues in the previous video, where the food can get spoiled quickly in that weather. So we talked about that. So just make sure you don't get sick. You don't want to get sick, especially at the time of Mina, because it might mess up your time going to Arafah. Speaking of Arafah, and Arafah, you know, like after the khutbah, you know, you don't have to stand up. We thought you have to stand up under the sun, and you don't have to do that. Wuquf Arafah or standing in Arafah, you can sit down under the tent in the shade. You can do that. That also counts. A lot of people didn't know that they had to go outside under the sun for some reason. So if you travel with your mother or with your wife, it's a good tip to let you know that for whatever reason you need to go to buy something or to go to get something, and there's a long line. Remember that the women line, or the women, there's always, they separate the men and the women for whatever, if you're in a restaurant or whatever you're ordering, right? So always the women line is always shorter. So this actually helped. When my wife was with me, it helped us a lot, because it was crucial. We needed to get something from the store, and we needed it right away. And because she was there with me, she was able to get it really quick. And if I had to get it, I had to wait maybe a few hours to get it with that very long line. So remember that, guys, okay? Alright, so we talked about... okay, one very important tip: if you really want to enjoy your Hajj, your Umrah, your future Umrah, always learn how to navigate. Learn how to travel, learn how to... I know they are building a new train system, but for now, learn how to maneuver. When you go to Aziziyah, the hotels outside Mecca to stay, like there's a place where you stay in the hotels, know the address. Write down the address on a paper in the Arabic language, or whatever, right? Just make sure you show that to the cab driver to take you there if you don't speak the language. Learn, like when you leave the haram, you'll see the cars waiting outside, especially during Hajj. Normal cars, they take people, and they take less. It's not like a cab, it's not taxis, but they're like public people trying to make money. So learn how to use that. It will be very enjoyable, because you don't want to be with your group all the time. You want to go on your own, do whatever you want, and come back. So this is really a good, it was very enjoyable for me, at least, to go back forth anytime I want. It was really good, and I wish you can do the same. Okay, when you put your ihram on, I noticed that when you buy the money pouch, especially the white one, you can twist it on the ihram, and this way it will tighten your ihram, and it will keep your important documents. Just in case if the group leader wasn't with you, you know, the qurbani, if you do the hajj mut'ah, you do have to slaughter. So if you don't know where to go, who to pay, where to go, or if the group leader just suddenly disappeared, there is a post office in the middle of the street. You'll see a post office. You go to them. That's how you get your qurbani. You pay the money, they give you a ticket. If you have a phone number, they will call you when the qurbani is when the thing is done, so you know that it's been completed. But if you have no group leader, if you lost them, that's how you get your qurbani. So make sure you perform your hajj correctly. Okay. So when you go to Muzdalifah, especially if the group leader was new, you'll probably walk, and end up in a place that is inconvenient because there's nowhere else to walk, right? So when you go to Muzdalifah is a place where everybody sleeps on the floor, right? When you go into Muzdalifah, if you see a really nice spot private somewhere, go to it. Take your family there, take your group there, and stay there. Don't keep walking with the people and end up, because what happens, you're gonna end up using the road. So there's a main road that people walk. So you start using the road itself to making it narrower and narrower, and using the place to stay there. So you'll be there, and people will be walking on top of you all night long, and it's really inconvenient. So remember, when you go to Muzdalifah, you see a spot, go there, and don't just keep walking. Okay. We talked about Muzdalifah, Arafah. After Muzdalifah, you pray Fajr, and you're supposed to take a bus to Mina. Now remember, it's 3 miles. If you do have elderly person, people who can't walk, maybe it's a good way to take the transportation, but really it's only 3 miles. It will be really easy for you to go back to walk the 3 miles. Is much easier, much faster, because it's Fajr, it's less, the temperature is still okay, you know. So if I were you, if you were in a good health, if you can walk, go ahead and walk it. It's really, sometimes people will be like jamming in one bus, and you don't want to be with, especially if you have family, you don't want to be in that situation. Okay, if you can walk, go ahead and walk. We do have GPS technologies now. I don't know if you have service and you can locate your tent in Mina by GPS. If you can do that, if the technology allows you, if you have the service, that is also an awesome tip to know where you're going if you decide to walk back to your tent in Mina. Okay, so if in Muzdalifah you want to walk back, if you have the GPS dot, that's amazing. That's really cool. In Aziziyah, so Aziziyah is when you go back to Mecca, or it's all in the haram, right? Part of the haram. So when you go to Aziziyah, the place where you stay in the hotel outside of Mecca, there is a big mall there. It's called, I think it's called Mecca Mall, but you'll see it is in the main road. Now, check this out. So the hadith mentions that the abghadul amakin, the worst places to Allah is the marketplaces, right? And the more beloved is the masajid, right? So you do notice something, that the malls are empty during that time. And when you are in an environment where people are crowded and you're just going crazy, right? I know that the mall is maybe the worst places you want to be, but if you really want to relax a little bit, go to the mall and you will be amazed how quiet it is. Just in case, I mean, this is just a tip for you guys, to let you know, if you want to get away from it, you want to go eat something or maybe read something, just go to the mall. It's really quiet, nobody's there. It's amazing, right? Okay, so you go back, you want to do your last, the final days. This is the most crowded time in Mecca, in the haram. if it's the most crowded day in haram, I did notice one thing. Now this is a few years ago, so I don't know about the construction, and I believe they did not tear this section down, so there is a secret section, not secret, but there's a section, but there's few people who know about it, and few people go there, right? So you know the where you walk between safa and marwa, right? There's few floors. If you keep going up the floor, you go to the ceiling floor, all the way on top, all the way on top where there is no ceiling, right? The top floor is the last floor to be filled, right? So when I was there, I was amazed, like there's so many less people there, and we can see the Kaaba, because the Kaaba is right there in front of you, and not too many people there, and you can look at how much people are crowded there. So this is a good tip. Okay guys, you gotta give me a thumb up if you didn't know this one. If it's still there, go ahead and check it out, see how quiet it is. So we talked about that, Safa and Marwa. Make sure you take water bottle, cooler, small personal cooler, especially when you go to and throw the jamarat. When you walk to the jamarat, there is water fountains you can drink from, but do not get stuck and get thirsty when you're coming back, because when you're coming back there is nothing. So take water with you. Make sure you take water with you. This is the first time in my life when I had a desperate situation where you're so thirsty you might you faint. This is how bad it gets, so make sure you have that. That's a good tip for you guys, okay? So make sure you prepare, you wait, expect the worst, never rely on anyone, be humble, do not expect anything from the team leader or the group leader. Don't assume somebody with a big beard has good manners, just become like Hajar, Hajar when she was looking for war for her son Ismail. Just relying on Allah. You ask Allah for every step you take, and you're weak. Don't think you're strong. Don't think you're tough. Don't tough it out. Just be a humble guy. And the last request I want you guys to make for me is just make dua for me and my family, inshallah. And Hajj Mabrur, may Allah accept your Hajj, and inshallah may Allah accept. Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Talk to you later.